Hi, I'm H. Wright-Riggins. I happen to serve as the Executive Director of the New Baptist Covenant, the Executive Director Emeritus of the American Baptist Home Mission Societies, Mayor of Collegeville, Pennsylvania, and a member and minister at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Springhouse, Pennsylvania. Like many of you, I'm grieving the death of John Lewis, Representative John Lewis, Congressman out of Georgia, the conscience of our nation, a person who was a preacher and a proclaimer of the beloved community. After 80 years of life, he finally went home to his final reward. It's been interesting to me the nerve that John Lewis struck in this country. Seems like everybody has been impacted by his death. I particularly am grieved by it because of a number of encounters that I had with John Lewis. The first encounter was in 1982 when I was serving with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Greater Los Angeles, serving under James Lawson, the chair of the board, who happened to be a mentor for John Lewis. He invited him, as well as a number of persons that had been engaged in the civil rights movement at that time, for a conference at the University of Southern California. And then I had an opportunity to meet him and greet him and spend some time with him. Then almost a decade later, more than a decade later, in 2003, I was privileged to present to him the Edwin T. Dahlberg Award for Peace and Justice. The Dahlberg Award is the highest award that American Baptists give to any particular person because of their commitment to issues of peace and justice. Martin Luther King had received this award at one time. Marion Wright Edelman had received the award, and President Jimmy Carter had received the award as well. We gave that award to John Lewis because of his commitment to being the conscience of this nation. Then, just a couple of years ago with the New Baptist Covenant, had an opportunity to meet and greet him at one of the conferences that we sponsored. Had an opportunity to take a selfie with him. It's been interesting to me all of this week. I've been watching the internet, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and it seems that everybody has a selfie with John Lewis. And I had to ask myself, why is that so? And I think that was partly because he made himself so accessible to everybody. In spite of his very busy schedule, in spite of his, quote, importance, in spite of him being a congressman, he made himself available. With John Lewis, there were no big I's or little U's. And we all in this country, I think, appreciate that because he was a man who met you eyeball to eyeball, person to person. So we grieve him. You know, John Lewis was one of 10 children. I think he was the third in his family that was born, a sharecropper, out there on a farm, poor dirt farmers. And I can imagine that when he was a little boy, he probably heard what many of us hear when we come from a large family. When we do something to a brother or sister, I can hear one of those children saying to him, "Ooh, you're going to get in trouble. I'm going to tell on you, ooh, you're going to get in trouble." John Lewis later in life said, the aim of life is to make good trouble. You know, if John Lewis was like many other African American young men who grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, one of the main things that could be said was that by a parent was, "Thank God my son never went to jail." But John Lewis went to jail 45 times. Why? Because he was committed to making good trouble. And John Lewis defined good trouble as being a person who got in the way when life got in the way of a person's rights to dignity and life and justice and the pursuit of happiness. So he dedicated himself to getting into trouble, and he called that good trouble. James Lawson once said that of John Lewis, that whenever he saw the dignity of any person being assaulted, he knew to put his body on the line. And so we salute this man who, for all of his life, made good trouble. Now, John Lewis, interesting to me, he didn't so much define his work as a political battle, but rather he saw it as a spiritual fight. That what he was engaged in came out. And because God has got this, we can rest assured that all is well and all will be well. And we can march on until the victory is won. God bless you, John Lewis. Rest in purpose, peace, and power. We're so grateful for you.